It's one of my more mysterious experiences, actually. Was New Year's Day, 76, I think. I could look it up. Anyway, I'm also married to a Mexican wife, by the way.
Oh, snap.
My second one.
What, your second Mexican wife or your second wife?
No, my second wife is Mexican.
Okay.
And that's an interesting story too. Anyway, going back to her place, which is in the state of Veracruz, we left Oaxaca, and I like to go to the old churches and see the artwork and stuff like that. And on the highway, there's this old monastery. And I was there with two of my new brothers. And we walk up the steps and go to a grassy area next to the church. And we hear some music coming from the church. Full. I mean, it sounded like there's several hundred people in there singing their lungs out and the organ playing. And so my brother-in-law says, well, let's go and see what's going on inside. Okay, so we make a few steps and the music stops. So then, you know, we listen again a little while. And then we say, well, we have to go and see what's inside. Okay, we go on the side, not the main door, which was on the front from the garden, but from the grassy area to the left side of it. And a huge wooden door. And so we get to it, and there's nobody there. Place was totally empty. Yeah.
Wow. What was the music that was playing, Rolf?
Well, not sure if it was Bach or not, but it could have been. Yeah. Apparently, during the revolution, it was a nunnery. No, what is the proper word for that?
Well, like a monastery or
Monastery. Yeah, monastery.
Or an abbey, yes.
For women. And apparently they were all killed there. And the living quarters were all destroyed off on the side of the church. But yeah, and the strange thing was there wasn't even any benches inside or anything. We could see through the crack of this old wooden door. We could see inside. And that eyesight, in the center of an empty place, there was a candle that was burning.
A single candle?
Yeah, but there's nobody there.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
That's a really, but thank goodness you witnessed that with other people. It wasn't just you yourself.
Right.
But you all witnessed it.
My brother-in-law heard it too, exactly the same way.
So what do you think it was, Rolf? You think it was devas, like just angels coming down?
I at one time had a question. Did I intrude on something that was going on, or did they play it for us? But then I thought just recently that they might have played it for us and actually aimed it at us. And that's why the music stopped the moment we walked away from our spot, right? And then we stood still. And then we could hear the music again. And then we said, well, let's see, this has got to be inside. I mean, this was a very primitive, small little town down the hill from the church. The phone for the whole little town was on the highway, just where we stopped, you know. So actually, I phoned a few days later after I got home back to Vancouver, and I wanted to talk to the priest because I heard from some people that were on the street that occasionally a priest is visiting the church, but there was nobody there when we were there. Yeah, well, you don't need to see that, do you? Oh, okay. So yeah, so I called via the operator. He says, well, you need a name. You need this person's name. So I figured, oh, well, Gonzalez is an easy name. So I said, Gonzalez. Sure enough, the priest's guy who lived not in that town, but outside was Gonzalez. So I spoke with him. I spoke with him and he spoke English. Most educated people in Mexico also speak English. And so I told him the story. I was wondering, but then I thought, even if he knew something, he wouldn't admit to it, you know, because Catholics are a little bit suspicious, and also maybe he didn't want to admit to it, and then have a lot of people flock to his place and want to hear the music or whatever. One never knows. Anyway, my brother-in-law saw this very, very ancient-looking person sitting on the steps up to the hill there, to the church. I saw him too, but I didn't, you know, think anything of it. But then when we came back down, he wasn't there. And so he asked a couple of guys further down on the road that were there before we got in, what happened to the old guy? And he said, what old guy? There was nobody there. Strange. Anyway, then of course we had to get back home, and then it was getting dark. My brother-in-law driving, and I said, golly, he's making the turns on the left side, you know. So if I would have driven, we would have been dead, because there the rule is at nighttime, or maybe even in the daytime, if you're going either down a hill or up a hill, you take the inside curve, and the other guy that comes up takes the outside curve. In other words, you change lanes. You don't stay in your lane, you know. But if you don't know that, you could have got killed. Well, so that was, you know, one strange experience there outside Oaxaca.
Yeah, well, Oaxaca's an amazing city, an amazing state.
I really want to go there sometime.
Yeah, well, if ever you do, go and stay in Las Golondrinas, just off the Zocalo. It's a beautiful little hotel.
Yeah, I stayed there actually.
Well, what's the coincidences of that,
yeah.
Rolf?
Yeah. Well, in case nobody has heard, Trump has won.
Yeah, I saw that.
Won?
Yeah.
To won what?
His impeachment.
Oh, they did not impeach him? I didn't know that.
No, they got a majority, but it wasn't a 2/3 majority.
That's good. Yay.
You can't impeach a guy that's not in office anymore. They're so stupid.
Yeah. So that means he can run for office again. So that's good. They didn't get 2/3.
Yeah. And, well, you know, there's a funny thing I came across. Most of my friends are already dead. I've lost more than 40 or 50 friends already, but I still have some. And the ones that are on the left, I found out also don't believe in UFOs. Now,
Oh,
I
right.
don't know whether all the ones that believe in UFOs are on the right. I'm not sure. But I have an old friend. I've known him for years and years and years. And just the other day, he calls me up and he starts swearing about Trump and stuff. I said, listen, you're not even in the States. You're in Canada. What the hell are you worried about? And you know, the little bastard, he's from Austria. He votes, but he's not a citizen. Anyways, so then we got on to something else, and I just as a trick question, ask him again, what about UFOs? Did you see that? Because yeah, there's lots of UFO stories, right, on the TV, on the History Channel here, actually. I think tomorrow again, all day, no Mondays usually, on the History Channel. So in the past, he used to say, well, if one lands in my backyard, then I guess I have to believe it. This time he says, oh, these are just pieces of paper that are floating in the air. I mean, it is a strange thing. He's not a stupid person, right? He's technically right up there. And but as far as UFOs goes, I don't know. Some people are just, they have a curtain in front of their eyes.
I think it might threaten their whole worldview, right? The idea that aliens are here challenges the worldview that we're not on top.
I don't know what it is. I mean, these days, okay, I can understand 40, 50 years ago. But now, I mean, there's so many sightings being reported. There is MUFON, there is, like I say, on TV, they talk about it now. Why are people still hesitant or just cannot? I guess the reason is it's beyond their comprehension, beyond their capability of wanting to deal with it, or I don't know. It's something, yeah, they can't deal with, right? So if they can't make any sense of it, then they just deny it and problem solved.
I think many people did deny sightings. They say, well, it's just photoshopped. All those videos on YouTube, a lot of them are fake, which is true. I tell them, look at large scale scientific studies like Project Blue Book Special Report number 14. The French government released the Cometa report and documents released by President Jimmy Carter with the Freedom of Information Act, thousands of pages from the military. That's the first thing I would mention to people. I wouldn't mention sightings because they could argue, but how do you argue with thousands of pages of military documents from all the intelligence agencies? Is the government trying to convince us that they do exist when they don't? They name people that are still alive in these documents.
All the radar stuff that is coming out, you know, that's pure military.
Yeah, then they come up and say, oh, well, the fuzzy pictures, or these are hubcaps being thrown in the air, and, you know, almost the same arguments as they make with crop circles, you know.
You know, the argument that I've heard about that is that, oh yeah, well, the Army's known about it for a long time. And that's where it ends. That's where the consciousness about it ends. It's like, don't dare to think about what the next thing is. Just say, oh, we've known that for a long time, right? But then what? What does it mean? And nobody will go into that. A lot of people will admit, now that it's on TV, yeah, we've known it for a long time.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Right? What does it mean, everybody? And nobody's asking that question.
But you know, it is strange that doesn't matter what kind of logic you present to them, they're not able to accept it.
Yeah, my own brother's like that. My brother's exactly like that. We've been talking about this for 15 years.
And when he sees the Army and the Navy stuff, what does he say? We've known that for a long time.
Well, I guess he doesn't look at that. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Rolf says, they just won't look. Yeah.
It is strange. Yeah.
I think it's some people's mindsets. They just can't they don't feel comfortable with it, and they don't want to go there, and they'd rather not think about it.
Yeah. They're probably protecting themselves with denying it, right? Then they don't have to deal with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess we're a special group or special people. I mean, some people.
I think we're special because we have high level conversations. Like half the population will admit, okay, there's aliens or UFOs, but we're talking about the meaning of a federation of planets and hybrids and the whole future of humanity in the fourth stage of development. Like we're talking a higher level discussion of what does aliens actually mean to our future. Whereas half the population will just say, okay, fine, there's aliens flying around in a flying saucer. But that doesn't have quite the impact of what we're discussing.
No, it's we're on a different level. We're already beyond all that. We're no longer chasing lights in the sky.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it, Ian. Thanks. Yeah, it gets bored. You know, if you're just chasing a light in the sky, you want to know what does it mean. You know.
I really liked it when Norberto kept being on the table and being bored. You know, it's like some people are like, freaking out. He's bored, you know. I don't know how many times we did it to him for him to be bored, right?
And I like Jeff's curiosity when he's being shown around the craft, and he just casually drops in, and there's a dead cow on the table behind, you know, right. And it's like. Yeah. You know, Jeff really handled that well in those cases. I guess none of us know how we're going to be until we're actually in those circumstances. I mean, you know, you've been there, Mimi, so you know it's just.
Well, the strangest thing that I ever saw, really, well, when I was sitting in a ship with other people, and we were looking at all the sacred sites on Earth. We were just flying over them. Not very far from them, but flying over them, all of them. And then down the hallway to my right, there was a huge party, like, you know, probably with drugs and all kinds of things going on, like sexual stuff, you know, like, I don't know, like orgies, let's say, right? Just there. And to me, that was the weirdest thing that I've experienced on a ship. You know, is that we were having a certain kind of education, the people I was with, and then there was this free-for-all happening just over there, you know, with all kinds of humans, like doing all kinds of things, going into all kinds of doors in all kinds of half dress. And we're like, you know, we're like the nuns sitting here learning about sacred sites, and there's all this shit going on, like reproductive stuff going on over here. That was one of my weirdest things that I've ever seen.
The cross-pollination of being able to see what others are up to on the ship, and you know, that's not. No, you're coming down this way. This is the way you're supposed to go to. It's like when what's his name, Ray Boucher. You know who I'm talking about, Brian? Yeah,
St. Catharines, Ontario, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I did a video with him. It's on my channel.
Yeah, but when he talks about when he went with his band to play that gig, and the audience didn't show up, and then he finds the audience when he goes off to, I think he goes off to find the toilet, and he finds a room full of people just standing there, and he taps a woman on the shoulder, and he says, "What are you doing here?" And she says, "The men told us to wait here." And all these are compliant people who, and Ray says, "I think I found my audience." And the audience had been hijacked and taken to a room in a village hall across from the bar that he's supposed to be playing at, and they're all in a trance-like state being processed by aliens.
Oh wow.
And that was my university. That was Brock University in St. Catharines. That's where I went to university.
That's it. That was where it was. That's it. Yes.
Yeah. I went there in '78. I think it happened in the early '70s.
Oh, right, you just missed that by a few years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a great story about what happened on the ship. And another one I liked was a case of some guys, some young guys in the UK. They were heavy metal fans, and they were on the way back from something or whatever, and they were walking, taking a short cut across the fields, and they were abducted, taken aboard the craft. And while they were on board the craft, the one suddenly heard the cassette tape that he'd had in his pocket of his denim jacket or his leather jacket was suddenly being played by the aliens in another room on board the ship. It played a short section and then it cut out briefly, suddenly and abruptly, and that was it. I don't think that was a hit with the aliens.
They didn't like his music.
No, that's right. But he said it was quite interesting that he was on board the ship in another part. He suddenly heard his music playing, and then it was abruptly cut off.
Well, yesterday when I listened to the interview, Peter Robbins' interview, he has a twin sister, and he was talking with Richard Dolan about his experience, and then his sister's passed away now, sadly, but she was a punk rocker, and that's
right.
Blue Oyster.
Helen Wheels.
Helen Wheels, yes.
I think she was a bit younger than him, though. I don't think they're twins. I think you said a younger.
Oh, yes, that's right. She was 2 years younger. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. He was 14. She was 12 when they were abducted. And she was very open about her experiences in all throughout her career. I don't know how she died exactly, but she was getting really famous by writing for Blue Oyster Cult, who've always had a lot of UFO stuff in their music. And I'm going to really research her, actually. I've taken a real interest in her. And I actually
met Peter Robbins. Has anyone else here met him? He's a great guy.
Yeah. Yeah, the interview was fantastic. I posted the link on our discussion part of the meetup. I often post links there, but no one looks at them. But
actually, Peter Robbins was Bud Hopkins's researcher as well, wasn't he?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's really a nice chronology.
He handled a lot of the correspondence that Bud received.
Right.
So he was first point of call really for a lot of people.
Yeah, I want to see Helen Wheels because she was around at the same time that I was around the punk music, and I don't remember her at all. I don't remember her concerts or anything.
No, but your paths may have crossed in some respects.
Yeah, well, we were in Canada and she was in the States, so probably not, probably not. But she played CBGBs and all the greats, and she would do interviews and talk about UFOs openly.
Well, from what I remember of Peter Robbins, he's a very amenable guy. You should reach out to him and just talk with him sometime. I'm sure he'd be more than willing to talk, especially about his sister.
He and Richard Dolan are going to do. They're going to. She had some regressions, and they're going to publish them so people can listen to them.
Good.
So that's they're going to do that in honor of her, which is great. I think I wish I could get a hold of my regressions, but the lady with the wig, I don't know who she is. She's in Venus or somewhere. My regression is not on Earth.
Are you saying it was a badly fitting wig?
Yes, it was a badly fitting wig. Yeah, it was.
So if you watched Earth Files and you saw Terry Lovelace this week, he talks about how the alien-human hybrid he calls Betty, and he actually names her Betty after Betty Rubble from the Flintstones.
Okay.
And he says the first time that he met her, he thought, crikey, that's a badly fitting wig. and she immediately telepathically intercepted his thought and returned some comment about it, and he felt quite embarrassed.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
this lady had milky white skin. She was a no-nonsense woman, you know, very thin, dressed in clothing that probably could come from the 50s. So sometimes I do think that these people are time travelers, you know, and they don't get the clothing quite right, you know, but she.
Yeah. What are they
Yeah, wait.
thinking of? I mean, it's like the MIBs. They're always getting the 50s Cadillacs, but they're looking in pristine condition, but they're the wrong era. They're getting the black fedoras and things like that. It's the wrong era.
Well, she was definitely dressed wrong for our era, right?
That's, I
The
wonder
era.
why. It's so strange. Any theories why that is?
No. Are they getting their stuff from, let's say, where they've picked it up from Earth?
Maybe a discount place.
Yeah, they've got an Earth surplus store that they go to, where everything is, and of course, time doesn't exist when you're outside of the Earth environment for a lot of these beings. They go there to get the Earth clothes, arrive on Earth, and then suddenly find that they're 20 or 30 years out of date.
Yeah, might have old cars stored too. They might have taken cars from the 1950s and 60s. Have them in stock.
Yeah. Can you just imagine the warehouses where they're going to get all this? It's a bit like a James Bond film where Q is fitting Bond out with the latest things that he's going to need, and the alien Q is fitting out the MIB with what he's going to need for his mission.
The thing is, human beings are too polite, right? If we see someone in the wrong kind of clothes, we don't say anything.
We're too forgiving, aren't we? We just keep it to ourselves.
We wouldn't bring it up, really.
No one's brought it up to the MIB since they've been appearing since the 50s, since the MK Jessup case, the case for the UFO. And so no one's told them. So they just keep repeating the same mistakes again and again. I remember I was talking to John Keel, and John Keel was telling me, he said, Ian, we really did have those MIB experiences. And he said, we would park our cars, they would park their cars, we would get up out of our cars and go towards them, look at them through the windows, and then go back into our cars.
Wow, that's so cool, eh? Wow.
Yeah. It was a privilege to speak with John Keel as well. You know, about some of those experiences.
But Ian, how many people have you met in ufology? You probably know more people. You could just do episode of just people you've talked to and met.
I try and meet all of them. I try and meet as many as I can. It's great. I mean, even at Contact, when you're walking along, and I met up with Stanton Friedman as well. And I was a privilege to meet up with Stanton Friedman, because in my opinion he was let's say they call him the father of ufology, but I would also call him, and I told him this to his face, I said, I think that you're actually the gentleman of ufology. You've always been so courteous, polite, and you know, always been like that in the UFO community. But yeah, it's great to meet up with these people and to share time with them and spend time with them. It's like when I was at Contact and I was talking, it sounds awful. When I was talking with Richard Dolan and Linda Moulton Howe, and Nick Pope comes past and he says, "Is that the voice of a fellow Brit I hear?"
Yeah.
which was great. And then he comes up and joins us for a bit, and then he says, "I think I'm off to bed now, perchance to dream." He was great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to us getting back to conferences again and meeting up, especially at Contact. That was probably the best one.
Yeah, I think I would go to that. I would go if there's another one.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be.
It would be great if we could go as a group. My problem with Contact was that I didn't have I was usually in Mexico when it was happening, and I didn't have a vehicle. So
I gave my ticket to my friend Donna and sent her down to sort it out, to to represent me. So that was good. In fact, my friend Donna has only just come back from Laredo. Is it Laredo in Mexico, in Baja? It's yeah, somewhere like that. Is it Baja de Laredo? It's opposite Mazatlan in on the Baja Peninsula.
I
But
have
anyway,
no idea.
yeah, she's just come back from there.
Mm. Yeah, I wanted to go, and
But anyway, you have a Zoom meeting.
That's right. This
Is
year's
that-
cancelled. Contact's cancelled this year as well.
mm,
2022. Yeah, it'll be a. You know, that's assuming we haven't had disclosure by then, and we know all the answers, and there's no need to, and suddenly it's it's cancelled for that reason. Can you imagine? Contact's cancelled this year due to disclosure.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think even if we do have disclosure, we'll have plenty to talk about.
oh, for sure. Yeah.